Okay, so welcome everyone to week 7 of MBA 590 Digital Marketing. Um, Looks like we're running, just double checking all the streams to make sure it's all up and going. Sorry I was a few minutes late for a variety of reasons, including President's Day, so my daughters are off school, so my schedule's all disrupted. But hopefully we're going soon. Where the heck? Why is it? I'm running. It says I'm in for 20 seconds, and yet I'm not seeing it. Let me see if I reload real quick just to make sure. There we go. Okay. Oh, well, let me double check that just to make sure. Okay, got it. Okay, so we got a couple things to talk about today. The first is the project introduction, which has been turned back to you, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at the comments. I apologize, there was a little miscommunication. It's my fault. I remember I switched these turn-ins to being like out of 30 last semester, and I forgot to. And I told the TA they were out of 10 because that's what I've been doing forever, and so she uploaded grades out of 10, but really was out of 30. We fixed all that, so hopefully there's no problems there. You can see that everything's fixed on that spot. If you have any questions about your comments or turn-ins, let me know. I know one that's come up a couple of times. There's a couple places where Kimberly asked for some more detail. We're still not asking for like exact numbers for like revenue or anything like that, but just a little more explanation would be helpful. So that you might have gotten that comment coming back. So that's on the project introduction, right? The other things that we're working on this week is to look at the looking at the wrong page. To look at the new material that's up on on Moodle. Sorry, try to get it up and running again. Okay, somehow logged me out as I was trying to pull up everything. On user experience, so get that up. Double check. Yeah. Okay. Great. Sorry. Sorry. Watch the week 7 videos on search. Right. That's what we're on now. So we did. No, week 7 on user experience. Got that right. I got to change that little message in the announcement. It still says search. So watch the week 7 videos on that. Review your project introduction comments. Read over the Internet of Things article and answer the questions on Top Hat related to that. And then Chapter 5 is related to the user experience materials. There's also, if you're interested, there's a bunch of stuff on the Internet of Things I put up there. There's one about a printer hack that someone pulled off using Internet of Things bug that I thought was kind of intriguing. Might be worth listening to. There was also I also put a link up there to the Shodan Iot Search Engine. So this is a search engine that allows you to kind of just search the Internet of Things. So when we talk about the Internet of Things reading next week, I'll discuss this in more detail. But just kind of go over that and see what you think about it, and we'll go from there. But yeah, what major focus this week is user experience. Now, next Wednesday, you do have your situation analysis is due, right? So that's the next big turn-in that you have. So that's next Wednesday, February 26th. So make sure that you are prepared for that. Checking this dates. So I am going to talk a little bit about that today. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about that. Then I'm going to talk about the Amazon search reading from last week. And then that's it for today. So as always, if you're listening in on the live stream and want to ask a particular question, let me know. I did have a question sent in ahead of time about the situation analysis and marketing plan. And so I'll pull up that question specifically. But in general, I'm good. I was planning to go through that anyways this week, so it worked out perfectly that I had that question. Okay, so let me pull up. I want to pull up the actual comments so that we can talk about that. Let's see. classes. Okay. So this is the team project, and I'll put this up on the screen so you can see it as well. Capture, edit that one, don't want that, I want the PDF. There it is, team project PDF. Okay. Okay, show that one. Okay, it's a little big. Let me make that smaller so you can see it better. There we go. Okay, so now you should be able to see it pretty well. Let me turn off my video capture. Okay, so as I discussed, we are in the middle of the situation analysis section, which is right here. So, the basic idea here, and just to give you a sense, right? It says in the very beginning that the document should be about 15 pages long. That's kind of just a lowball estimate, if anything. It's that I can't imagine someone doing a proper job and not writing at least 15 pages. If you want to make it 20 pages, that's fine. In fact, most of them I'd say come in more in the 20 to 30 page range than the 15 page. It's more of a guideline than anything. But let's back out. Let's assume you actually get a perfectly done 15 page document. And that's completely possible to do. I do want to mention that, right? Like, you don't have to write a much longer document. But if you were to do that, right, then what would, how many pages would each of the sections be? Well, the project introduction is about 2 pages, right? And then there's 2 other big sections, the environmental situation analysis and the tactics and implementation. And so if you take off 2 from 13, from 15, you got 13. Doing my math too fast. If you split that in half, each of these sections is roughly 6.5 pages, right? These 2 sections are about the same. The environmental situation analysis maybe a little smaller. Depends on how you divvy it up, but so we're looking for, like, if you think about going from 15 to 30, we're looking for like a 6 to 10 page turn in for this, right? So the basic goal for the environment and situation analysis is to kind of basically describe where the firm currently is and where its competitors are. And as I mentioned, you should try to conduct some primary research to try and gather additional information about the firm and where they are, right? And that could be by doing a survey, right? It could be by doing a focus group. It could be however you want to do it. Surveys are usually the easiest, right? You should also critique competitor sites, right? And kind of put together a comparison between the firm's current digital marketing efforts and marketing efforts of their competitors, right? And then these questions here are kind of like, they're all pretty self-explanatory, but it's kind of just trying to get you at what is the firm doing? Like, who is the target market, right? What will encourage the target market to use the site or the digital marketing plan, right, in general? What is the size of it? Who is the competition, right? Comparing to other members, what is the demand trend? What are the resources of the firm with respect to digital marketing? And then, I always love to see a SWOT analysis, right? So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? And then the other thing you're turning in on this one is the marketing objectives and goals. And I do want to spend a little bit of time here because I think that this is where people mess up the most. So, I am asking for SMART goals, right? So specific, measurable, assignable, realistic, and timely goals, right? And so what I mean by that, as we've defined early on, right, is that it has to meet all those 5 criteria, right? So that means I do not want to see goals that are like, we will increase brand presence. It's not timely, right, among other things. And we'll increase brand presence by brand awareness by 15% by the end of 6 months is also not a SMART goal because it doesn't tell you exactly how you're going to measure brand awareness, right? So we'll increase brand awareness by 15% by conducting a survey of the consumers before and after the digital marketing campaign, right? That's a potential SMART goal, right? You're getting there now. So besides stating the SMART goal itself, the other thing I would like you to do, right, is I would like you to kind of also spend some time describing why that SMART goal is relevant. And this doesn't have to be a long amount. It could be like 1 sentence, right? But there should be some description of why the SMART goal is relevant to the firm, right, and why it's important. And then there should be some description of how successful we measured, right? And of course, kind of the SMART goal itself should have at least one KPI almost built into it, but you can include additional KPIs as well to support that SMART goal. So in reality, when I say 3 to 5 SMART goals, what I really mean is, the best way to possibly do this is to do like a bulleted list with SMART goal, right? The explanation of why that's an important SMART goal, and then a description of the KPIs. And then just repeat that, right, for each of the different SMART goals, right? And the other thing I should mention is that the SMART goals should not come out of nowhere, right? The situation analysis should kind of set up the SMART goals, right? It should kind of be the beginning for explaining. It should be pretty obvious after you read through the situation analysis why you're choosing the SMART goals that you're choosing. So make sure that they're tied well into the rest of the plan, okay? Again, there's no expected. I think the exact question I got on email was, is there a particular format? Let me pull it up exactly so I get it right. There we go. Okay, hold on one second. Yeah, okay. So the exact question I got from Megan was if there's a particular format for the assignment. In no particular format, right? I'll say the same thing I said for the project introduction. I want to see the best digital marketing plan that you can generate, right? Whatever that means. I kind of described the format that I think works really well for the SMART goals, right? But I'll leave it open to you. What I don't want to see, and again, I've mentioned this a couple of times, is part 5B, right? Who will encourage the target markets, right? And then just an answer. I want to see a plan that you could give to anyone who's never seen this document, and it would make perfect sense to them, right? I also, on the other hand, what I don't want to see is I don't want to see just a big text block, right? I want to see you using formatting properly, kind of splitting sections up properly, so it's really obvious what you're doing, okay? So that was one question that came in, and hopefully that helps. I did get another question from Gadir about the situation analysis. And she was basically asking if we need to build upon, the introduction, or if you just can turn in just the current bullets 5 and 6 by themselves. And yeah, I'm fine with you just turning in bullets 5 and 6, right? You could turn in an updated introduction if you want, if you think it helps understand it. But we will grade 5 and 6 separately, so there's no need to turn in. Now, the final report, obviously, you do need to turn in everything again. And part of the reason why we had a little bit of concern, apparently, that some people thought that the grading was a little hard, but that's on purpose, right? I want you to kind of make sure that you know what to expect when we do the final set of grading. And so the kind of comments you're getting back and the grades you're getting back are reflective of that, right? And so I'm trying to give you more feedback early on so that you can better adapt and aren't taken by surprise. The other thing to note, right, is that the final project, one way to think of it, the final project is worth 30% of your grade, right? Each of the turn-ins that you're doing before the final document is turned in is worth 3%, right, of your grade. So the vast majority of points, 21%, 1/5 of your grade, over 1/5 of your grade, is actually that final turn-in. So I wouldn't be concerned about the exact grades you're getting on these particular exams, right? Like part of the reason I don't want to, I don't want to give you all perfect A's on these exams is because there are these turn-ins, is because I want you to be improving over the course of the semester, right? So that's a couple other comments about what's going on with this document. Now, if there are any other questions, please let me know, and I will definitely do my best to address them. If there aren't, I think at this point I'm going to switch over. I think I might be able to do this without even opening up another window. I want to talk about Amazon search. Give me one split second, pull that up. And then we're good. Okay, good. Let's go back. Yes. Get into it. Give me a second here. Okay, I clicked on the wrong directory, of course. Okay, here we go. And so let me make sure that that looks right in the window. I think it does. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, so let's talk about Amazon ads a little bit, right? So if I can get it to advance, right? So this is the reading you just had, and unlike Google, which allows you to advertise on many different venues, Amazon essentially only allows you to advertise on Amazon or with Amazon affiliates, right? So it's a different model than a lot of the other advertising platforms out there. You pay for sponsors listings, right, essentially, which place your product at the top of the search listing. Amazon has a variety of different ways to do this now. You might have seen all the different options they have in terms of sponsored listings, in terms of promoted products, and Amazon Choice, etc. As much as 12% of a product's price, in this case, then as a result, is advertising, right? 6% is for shipping, and 15% just the list, right? So Amazon winds up charging companies, if they're advertising at all, they're sometimes paying Amazon 33%, right, of what they're selling for. It's a lot, right? So, one big question is this worth it, right? Well, the advantage is it's a totally closed ecosystem, right? Like when I advertise with Google, I don't really have full control over where my content is actually shown. But when I advertise with Amazon, I know exactly where my content's going to be shown, right? It's going to be shown on the Amazon pages, right? And so I can see it right away where it's going to be, right? The other thing is Amazon has a lot of knowledge about past users who purchased that item, so they can cross-promote the product to people who might be searching for something similar, right? And they know about the focal user's past shopping experience, so they can tell if this user. So it's kind of two different stories, right? So the one is if I'm selling, let's say I'm selling a piece of clothing, right? And Amazon knows what other customers have bought that clothing before, so they can target individuals who are lookalikes, essentially, right? Now, on the other hand, they also know that, for me as an individual who's shopping on the site, they know all my past purchases, so they can target me in a better way with additional items. The one of the big problems here, though, is that really Amazon. It's not clear that Amazon's ad space is really that big, right? It's really currently constrained to Amazon and Amazon affiliates. Google and some of the others own a lot more of the place, so it's hard to say that this is a huge amount of space, right? And in reality, it's going to be hard for Amazon to grow advertising separately from the base business model, right? Because it has to grow its own marketplace and increase search in order for it to make any profit at all, right? And so that's kind of a disadvantage somewhat to the way it works. It's almost like Amazon is at odds with its own advertisers at times. It's obviously controversial. Amazon is charging people who are also using the site. In some respect, it's cutting into its own potential profits from listing the product with no advertising, right? So if you think about this, right, let's imagine a world in which I could put the product up on Amazon and then there's the potential that maybe not as many people list the products, right? Maybe I list more products if I don't have to pay for advertising, right? There's a bunch of reasons why this could potentially be harming Amazon, right? And so it's not clear that it's the best possible strategy, but they've decided it works, and it seems to be working. So it might not be true in theory, but it seems to be working in practice. Right? And of course, privacy invasion is always a concern, right? The users are losing more and more of their content in this space, right? That they're giving up more information that they there's additional information being collected about Amazon shoppers that maybe would not have been needed to collect it if they weren't also advertising to them. So one thing to think about, right, like, is that really there's kind of predominantly three market players right now: Google, Amazon, and Facebook. All right, and so as your own kind of at-home assignment, why don't you think about how you might allocate funds between those three for the company you're working with for the project, right? Do you think you would use the same strategy for each, and how would you optimize your strategy over time, right? And kind of consider what you would do in that space. There were a couple of interesting comments that came up on the Top Hat forum that I wanted to mention. Let me just pull it up. So I want to talk about through these. Okay. Let me pull over. Let me switch over so you can actually see me as I'm talking to you, because you don't really see that. Okay. So, Elizabeth said that Amazon is the place where more than half the product searches start. That means that more than 50% of the people on the internet searching for a product to buy never even go to Google or Facebook. So obviously, it makes sense for Amazon to have a huge advertising play there. That's a huge purchase intent, right? And the other thing that's interesting, and we haven't talked about this so much, is that Google might know more about my general internet searching behavior, about where I go and what I look at. But Amazon knows more about my actual purchases, right? Google knows very little about what I actually purchase because it doesn't actually control any of the purchase sites. It just controls the search engines that get me to the purchase sites, right? So I think that's very interesting, and it's a trade-off, right? Because on the other hand, what Amazon doesn't have is Amazon doesn't have information about what I do when I'm not searching for purchases, right? But Google doesn't have any information about what I do when I am searching to make a purchase, and so they both have like a complementary set of resources. Okay. So next, Patrick says that in comparison to Facebook and Google, Amazon has a higher bargaining power if the vendors advertise on their site because they control the marketplace, right? And people who view relevant ads on Amazon are more likely to make a purchase based on the ad immediately than seeing an ad on Google or Facebook, right? If you think about it, that's true, right? Like, ads on Amazon are things that I'm pretty likely to click on right away to make a purchase, whereas Google and Facebook are I'm probably gonna wind up. I may not buy it right away. It may influence me in the long run, but it doesn't have that kind of moment of purchase inspiration. Yeah. So, and one other comment that Patrick made that I thought was really interesting. So he makes the comment that the context is important, right? Amazon. What do you do when you're on the Amazon site? When you're on the Amazon site, you're making a purchase. You're not reading an in-depth political discussion or reading about the latest Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to come out, right? Or anything like that. You're basically just there to buy, which means that not all advertisers are actually going to be able to use the Amazon advertising network, right? If I'm a politician, it probably doesn't make much sense for me to advertise there, whereas I would advertise on Google or Facebook, right? If I'm Marvel, maybe it makes sense for me to advertise the Marvel products that already exist, but I can't advertise a Marvel movie that's coming out, right? So it's kind of limited for that respect. Rebecca talks about that the most controversial thing about digital ads is that customers feel like that they lose some of their privacy, right? Especially with remarketing. And this is interesting, right? Like Amazon in particular is notorious for this, that they will follow you around the web if you've looked at a piece of product to any other Amazon affiliate website and keep advertising the same product, right? And that kind of, to a lot of people, that feels a little privacy invasive, right? Because it means that my content, my stuff that I was doing on a website is being shared with other websites, which to a lot of people feels like crossing a certain line. Jeffrey had an interesting comment where he said that Google allows people to pay for influence over the search results, right? Making their site appear higher in the search results, increasing the likelihood of finding searcher finds that site, right? Facebook, right, stems from the access to personal use data. And I should mention with the Google example, they do delineate ad content from organic content, so it's not completely like you can distort their results, but still, you can pay to be on the top of the ads, right? Facebook, of course, has all the problem with the fact that they're collecting much more personal data, it feels like, than either Google or Amazon, right? And then Amazon, right, is the fact that a lot of the personal data is specific to products and sales, right? That they are deliberately just using it to sell you things, right? And so that's kind of a controversial aspect to there. So each of these three, right, has its concerns with privacy and controversy. And so before selecting, the last line Jeffrey says is that before selecting a platform for advertising, a firm must determine the channel of the best fit for its products, marketing objectives, and long-term operating plan. And I definitely agree with that, right? That you shouldn't just choose a firm, a particular platform because of because they're a dominant player, or because of any particular aspects that come along with them because they're the cool thing to do at the time. It's much more important to consider what the overall impact of partnering with that advertising firm or advertising platform will be for you. So those are the main comments I wanted to make about Amazon Search today. Kind of talk through the project introduction. If you have any more questions about that, let me know. We talked through the situation analysis and marketing objectives, and if you have any more questions about that, let me know. Especially, I'll get one more chance to talk to you next Monday before it's due, so shoot me any questions you have about it as you start to read into it. And then for this week, right, the big thing you're working on is the user experience videos. So get through those and kind of take a look at the Internet of Things reading that we posted. Okay, so that's about it for today. Unless there are any other questions, I think I'll be signing off. I'm just checking to make sure that I had the optional. Nope, I didn't. Okay. So thanks, everyone. Good luck on your situation analysis and marketing plans, and let me know how things are coming along. Take care, everybody.